In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a rolling 12-month total in Power BI. As an analyst or developer, it is very likely at some point you will be asked to do this. So let's get started. Alright, we are here in my report, and as you can see, at the moment it is showing us a rolling 12-month total for our sales. We currently have no filter selected, which is why we have a rolling 12-month total for our sales up to and including the end of January 2023. As you can see, I've selected it, and there is no difference to our numbers. However, if I were to go to a previous month, let's say May 2022, well, now our rolling 12-month sales changes. And this is something that you may very well be asked to do. So how have I done this? Well, the first thing that we need to do is go to the data model so you can understand how it works. So we're here in the data model, and the main thing to keep in mind is the fact internet sales relationship with the date table. This relationship works on the order date, and the metric that we will be calculating is the sales amount. So let's build our sales amount, and then let's use that to build our rolling 12-month total. So we're back in the report view in Power BI, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a new measure. So let's create a new measure, and let's call this sales. And it is simply going to be the total of our sales amount. So sum sales amount of our fact internet sales table. The next thing that I'm going to do is format this. So I will format it into a currency, and it has 2 decimal places. Perfect. All right. Now we can have a look and check that it works. So what I have here on the right is a table with our dates. I am now going to drag in our total sales amount. So let me drag this in here. And you can see we now have our total sales for each month in each year. So this works, and our total is correct. The next thing we want to do is update this KPI with the 12-month rolling average. This is where things can get a bit tricky, but I will keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. So let's create a new measure, and I'm going to call this rolling 12-month sales. The first thing I want to do is to return the latest date. This will return the latest date if there is no selection made on the slicer, and it will return the latest date if there is a selection made. So let me show you how this will work. What we want to do is, and it's going to be very simple actually, all we need to use is an expression called last date. So let's make this into a new variable. Let's call it last date. And it's simply going to use a last date function, and the date will be from our date table. Remember, we have that relationship going from date to our order date. We're using the date table dimension as our slicer selection. And we can simply return last date. Actually, I'm going to change that. Let's make this max date so Power BI doesn't get confused. Right, and there we are. So I'm going to now drag this into a card visual to make sure that it is working in the way that we would expect. It's a little bit big, but never mind. There we are, 28th of January 2023. That is the date we are currently returning. That is the maximum date that we have in this data. Now, if I were to select, let's say May 2022, I would expect to receive the last date in 2022. And as you can see, it does that 31st of May 2022, which is the last date of the month that we have selected. If we do June, we get the same thing. Perfect. This is working exactly as we want. Now we want the other end of the scale. We want 364 days, or 1 year plus 1 day, back from this date. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and create another variable to do this. So let's open up our measure again. We're going to create a new variable, and let's call it min date. Now this is going to reference the variable on top, and what we're going to do instead is use a different function. Date add simply takes the date, and you can specify how far back or forward you want to add. So the date is going to be the max date variable that we created above. The number of intervals is going to be -1 because we're subtracting 1 year. We're going to do that to begin with, and let's just check that this works. Oops. What I also wanted to do was to return the min date. So now we know that the date we have selected is the 30th of June 2022. We would expect to receive back the 30th of June 2021. So let's change this and let's have a look at what happens. There we go, 30th of June 2021. But we don't want that. We want a day ahead, which will be the 1st of July 2021. So what do? We need to update this variable, and we'll do it using the same function. Date add again. This is our date, which we already have. We are going to add 1 day. It will be as simple as that. And now we should see our KPI update, the 1st of July 2021. There we have it. Now we have our dates. We can go ahead and calculate our rolling 12-month average. So let's do that. Let us return the actual value this time. So we are going to calculate. We already have our sales measure, so we'll reference that. And we want to filter it to these two dates, right? We want to filter our calculation to calculate the sum between our min and max date. So we will simply say dates between. So our dates is going to reference the date table again. Let's go down here. Start date will be our min date, and the end date will be our max date. Close that all off, and we'll see what we get. So let's now format this again as a currency. I'm actually going to put it into this visual here, only because it's already formatted. So this looks a little bit nicer. As you can see, I've just changed the formatting a bit to give us the entire number. Now, how do we know that this works? Well, we've currently got 2022 June selected, so we are calculating our sales for the 12 months up to and including the end of June 2022. Well, on the right here, we've already created a table with our sales amount for each month. We can simply filter that to the 12 months up to June 2022. So I've got this slicer on the right of this table, and we can simply use this. So let's go from June 2022 and work our way backwards. And as you can see, this table is updating and giving us a total. We should expect the total in this table, to match what we see here in the rolling 12-month total. So let's select our 12 months. And there we are. Our total is $9,805,010.25, 10.25, which matches exactly what we're seeing here. And if we were to select a different month and we were to update this slicer, what you will see is the same figure. Again, both of them match, indicating to us that our measure works. So as you can see, we very simply and quickly created a rolling 12-month total using measure stacking by creating our first expression that we then made our second one on top of, and by creating two variables using a very simple DAX function, dates between. If you found this useful, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more.